Hello. I don't really know what this video is exactly going to be about, so it'll be a surprise to myself on how I name this, but this is not so much just a reaction to the Goodreads Choice Awards, but more so what the Goodreads Choice Awards made me realize about my reading over the past year, and the books from the Choice Awards that I do actually plan on reading because they reminded me that I should read them. That's not a pithy title and I don't know how I'm going to fit that in, but I'll figure it out. So as I mentioned, this is not a reaction to because I've already seen the awards list. I wrote down a list of the books that I was interested in from the awards and all of that, but that actually got me thinking that this reading year has been incredibly mediocre for me, and part of me kind of wonders if it's because I haven't read some of the books on this like list. Not that these are the only good books, that's not what I'm saying. We all know that the Goodreads Awards is very skewed, it's very much a popularity contest, like it is not the mark of like excellent fiction always, but this year for the adult science fiction and fantasy categories, there's some pretty good books on this list. I was just sitting here for a while, not talking, and she decides to get in my lap as soon as I start filming a video. Where were you the last 15 minutes? And I will get to this in my end of the year reading wrap up, which will not be until January, which I'm gonna keep mentioning in all of these videos because people will be like, where is it? I don't do these videos until January because I wanna have my entire reading year in stats. But from what I found so far, and I just counted this when I was on Instagram Live right before this and I'm forgetting, I think I found that I've only read 3 5-star books this year. 3. That is the lowest number ever for me. Usually I have above 5. Like I don't hand out my 5 stars, but I usually have more. So this year I did not read a lot of new releases. Not that new releases are the only good books. I'm a backlist girl, I get that. But some of these books were things that I had heard mutterings about here and there, and I think this is also, again, this video is all over the place, but you guys said you wanted to see it when I asked on Instagram. But I think it's a little bit of also showing how detached I've been from the book community this year. 1, because I was in the reading slump for about 4 or 5 months. And 2, like a lot of the creators that I follow on YouTube that I had been following for years, a lot of people have dropped off in the year since I've been doing this, which has been like 8 years. So I didn't have any like sources of, are these books good? Are they not? I would hear about them like in inklings maybe on Twitter or something and then never hear about them again. And so I would forget about them. And I've only recently been getting into TikTok for book content as well. And that's helping. So we'll see what this brings for 2022. But I want to talk about some of the books that are on this list, not because I've read any of them, because for the entire fantasy category, I have not. But I've heard about almost all of them. And the sci-fi category, I've heard about a number of them as well. So I kind of wanted to go over some of these, which ones I plan on reading, what I kind of think about the list in general, even though I haven't read them, just based on like, you know, just knowing what I know about like popular books and things that didn't make it and things that did and all of that. Goodreads Choice Awards thoughts, and also my thoughts on my mediocre reading year as a little sprinkle that we'll get to in more detail later. So I do want to start with fantasy as the first category. So first we have The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik. This is a book that I do plan on reading and I would have read by now, except I cannot find it anywhere locally. I need to actually ask one of the bookstores locally, like, can you just order it for me? But I've gone to a number of bookstores, maybe by the end of the month I'll have it. And no one has it, and I'm like, what? So yeah, that is a book that I do plan on reading. I really liked the first book, or I wouldn't say I really liked it. I liked it enough to be like, I'm intrigued. I want to see how the second book goes. Because it had its issues, but like, I still do kind of think about it, like the setting, and it is kind of cool. The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. I'm not necessarily super inclined to read this. It was on my like most anticipated list for the year, but that was before I attempted to read Malice, which is still on my TBR. That's one of his other series that he's written, which is like a grimdark adult fantasy series. I started reading it during this slump and wasn't connecting to it, but I still want to try to read it because I ultimately do think that I will like it, but I want to read Malice before I jump into this thing. I think this is more dragons because there's dragons on the cover, so intrigued, but yeah. The Hidden Palace, which is the second book in the Golem and the Jinni by Helene Vecker. I loved the Golem and the Jinni. I thought it was going to be a standalone. So I don't plan on reading this, not because it wasn't probably really good, but I'm totally fine with the Golem and the Jinni being a standalone. A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This is probably going to be the book that wins because the Goodreads Choice Awards is ultimately a popularity contest, and this has like just a ton of ratings. I do plan on eventually reading these, but not anytime soon. I've read the first ACOTAR like trilogy, and this is like some of the continuation, which I do plan on reading. I don't know when though. Then this is the one that I had my eye on for a while. I actually saw this book in a bookstore not that long ago, like a few months ago, and hadn't really heard about it, and then started kind of hearing things about it. This is The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornischek. And this is a reimagining of Norse mythology, like involves Loki and Odin and some of those. So I'm like, heck yeah, I'm into that. Oh, I have read one book on this list. I read The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nevo. Didn't really enjoy it, but I read it. Then A Master of Djinn by P. Djeli Clark. This is a book I've been hearing about a lot all over the place. I'm not sure if I want to read it or not. You let me know if you think I would like it. I've been hearing about it. I'm intrigued. I don't know. And then Sorrowland by River Solomon. This has been on my most anticipated list. I do want to read this. The Book of Magic, which is the second book in like the practical magic. Alice Hoffman, not interested in that. For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. I plan on reading that at the beginning of the year. It was on my most anticipated list and I've just never got around to it. Malice by Heather Walter. I have heard people read this and like this. So maybe. The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina. That's not a vampire book, is it? No, I don't think it is. But I've been hearing some rumblings, and this is by Zoraida Cordova, and this is like about magical women type stuff, which I'm always kind of into. So that one's like a maybe. A Spindle Splinter by Alex E. Harrell. This is a book I do have on my shelf. It's a reimagining of Sleeping Beauty. It's a novella, so I will probably read this one. Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. I also have this on my list. This is a like male-male romance between a guy and death, I want to say, like a reaper. Into that. She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. Been hearing this everywhere. I really want to read this one. The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reid. I've been seeing this just a little bit recently within the last couple of weeks. Not sure about that one. Let me know what you think. I don't know. What do you think? The Unbroken by C.L. Clark. Also one that I've been hearing about over the last year. Not quite sure, but leaning towards yes. The Crown and Gilded Bones is a Blood and Ash book. I might read from Blood and Ash. That's by Jennifer L. Armentrout. The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri was also on my most anticipated list for the year. Have not gotten around to it yet. That's a sapphic romance in a fantasy story. And then Ariadne by Jennifer Saint is like an Ariadne retelling, which I also saw at a bookstore and hadn't heard anything about. And do want to read. So most of these I want to read. And I'm putting this out there as like, I'm thinking about potentially doing a reading vlog early next year with some of these recs. So what I want you guys to do is tell me which ones you think I will love the most. Which ones are most likely to be 5-star reads for me based on what you know of me. Those are all the fantasy picks. Now for sci-fi, I'm not gonna go through the entire sci-fi list because these are less well-known to me. I'm just gonna talk about the ones that I plan on reading from the sci-fi list. So I've already read A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. Love it. One of my only 5-star books this year. I do plan on reading Remote Control by Nadia Corfor. This is about the adopted daughter of the Angel of Death. Yes. Then Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki. I have been seeing this everywhere. I also saw this in a bookstore and like almost bought it and then didn't. Kind of kicking myself about that. But the pitch on the back of this, like the comp, is Good Omens meets A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. Absolutely. That one's like definitely gonna get read. That's definitely gonna be in the reading vlog. I really want to read that one. Then I didn't even know this book was a thing. I'm hearing really good things about Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Andy Weir wrote The Martian. I never read The Martian. I watched parts of the movie when it was on TV once. But I've heard a lot of good things about this from people that really like sci-fi and are like similar in their reading habits to me. So I'm pretty sure I will read this one. Then The Last Watch by J.S. Dews. This is one that I've also been seeing on TikTok specifically. I think people were saying this was giving them Mass Effect vibes. If it wasn't Mass Effect vibes, or just at least saying like a good space opera, I'm into that. I haven't read like a decent sci-fi in a hot minute, so I'm interested. I am going to peruse the young adult fantasy SFF section, but I'm not, or should I do the debut? No, I'm gonna do young adult fantasy. I'm not gonna read through all of them because yeah, like Rule of Wolves I read, wouldn't consider it like a favorite. Chain of Iron I plan on reading, that's by Cassandra Clare. Lore I read and it was bad. Okay, maybe I lied, maybe I'm not. So the only ones on this list that I'm at all interested in are well, I do plan on reading These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends is on the list, which is book 2 in the series, but like I haven't even read the first one yet. I do want to read We Free the Stars, which is the second book by Hafsa Faizal. The first book was We Hunt the Flame, I want to say. I feel like that book came out like a while ago, so maybe there's just like a little bit of delay in the second book. So I do plan on reading that. The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna, I've been planning on reading. I own it. That's what I'm gonna read. Iron Widow by Siren J. Zhao. I do think I'm gonna read. I've heard some good things rumbling about that one, and those are the only ones that I'm interested in. And it's interesting because a lot of these books are, again, books that I was highly anticipating or whatever, but there's a mix of not having heard about them after they came out and just being a little bit disconnected from the community, which I'm getting back into, and just for some reason like missing out on some of these like really highly acclaimed, at least within the book community, books. So I really want to get back into that. I will talk about this more in my like goals for next year and things coming up. This is just kind of like a teaser for all of that. But those are the books that I plan on reading from the Goodreads list. It's a lot of books. And if I read all of them, that'd be like a third of my reading year for next year. And I don't know if that's gonna happen. But I would like to try. And a few of those are novellas. So again, let me know based on the list, what are the books that you think I would most enjoy? Because I want to read just like a ton of 5-star books next year. I know that's like always the plan, but for some reason I sometimes will like put off 5-star books, especially if I'm in a slump. I'm like, I'm not going to enjoy it as much as I could, so I don't read them. I don't necessarily always want to try to read like great books back to back. I don't know why. Why do I punish myself? But next year I'm sort of like focusing on like, if I'm not gonna read a ton of books, I just wanna read like everything amazing. I wanna treat myself in that way. So let me know what you think is gonna be the best for me from this list. So comment below, let me know what you thought of the Goodreads Choice Awards, if you've read a lot of these picks, if you haven't. Thank you all for watching and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.